face. Yule wa LEKSI. Nimekuja na another track from
Me and Jam.
Me and Nipe. So deep is your love to me, yeah, that you gave your son to me, yeah, yeah. Mikuki akadungwa kwa ajili yangu, matusi akatusiwa kwa ajili yangu, na kupigwa akapigwa kwa ajili yangu. Sina budi ila kusema asante, yeah. Sina budi ila kusema asante kwa yale umetenda, asante kwa yale utatenda, asante kwa yale umetenda, asante.
No maana mimi wa haya, sina mwingine ila yeye, na sifa siku na mchana, yeye na furaha kupatana naye, tabibu wa magonjwa yoyote, tukutukuza siku zozote, majaribu ni mwangaza, yeye na furaha kupatana naye, kupatana naye, Yesu hakuna mwingine, giving you all the glory and the praise. With you, who can stand against me? With you, I'm here counting my blessing. Sifa zako milele, na kusujudu Mwokozi wangu we. With you, who can stand against me? With you, I'm here counting my blessing.
My fellow Christians, just give me one moment. Mina jua in life hakuna shida permanent. Mina jua God manze wendo government, ndo maana umeniweka na shine kama ornament in life. Najua wewe ndio ruler, cheki manze vinye devo amefura, sauti safi kushinda hata ya chura, na kama una feel tracks unaweza
yunda. Sina mwingine ila yeye, na msifu siku na mchana, yeye na furaha kupatana naye, tabibu wa magonjwa yoyote, tukutukuza siku zozote, majaribu ni mwangaza, yeye na furaha kupatana naye.
Ganji, umeni bless na mado, hata seme aje mina jua wendo mwenye do, hata wani ite fala atika kondo, mina kuta mfalme baba mwana wa kondo.
Ganji, umeni bless na mado, useme aje na jua we mso, wani ite fala kakondo, we mfalme mwana wa kondo. Ganji, umeni bless na mado, useme aje na jua we mso, wani ite fala kakondo, we mfalme mwana wa kondo. Sina mwingine ila yeye, na sifa siku na mchana, yeye na furaha kupatana naye, tabibu wa magonjwa yoyote, tukutukuza siku zozote, majaribu ni mwangaza, yeye na furaha kupatana naye.
Hypertension or high blood pressure is one of the non-communicable diseases. It is a significant cause of mortality and morbidity. And that is the reason why our viewers need to learn something about it.
Hello viewers, I believe you've had a fabulous week. We have another opportunity at Just Connect TV to learn more about our health and our bodies. And with me is Dr. Waithaka. He's going to tell us more about himself as we address ourselves to the issue of hypertension today. Karibu sana daktari.
Thank you so much, Bwana Maina. Now, as he has said, my name is P.K Waithaka. I am at the tail end of training in a master's program, family medicine. At the moment, let me say that I'm born again. Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior of my soul. And I'm currently putting up a clinic, a medical center at a place called Royal Kimbo. That's the much I can say about myself for now.
Thank you, doctor. Today we want to address ourselves to the issue of high blood pressure or hypertension. Ile watu husema kupanda damu.
Yes.
And with the current situation in the country, the pressure and all this, probably you can tell us what high blood pressure or hypertension is all about. And is high blood pressure, ugonjwa inaitwa high blood pressure, or is it hypertension? Probably you can clarify on that as well.
Okay. Let me start by saying that hypertension or high blood pressure is one of the non-communicable diseases and is a significant cause of mortality and morbidity. And that is the reason why our viewers need to learn something about it. Maybe we can start by looking at what blood pressure is.
Exactly.
Now, blood pressure is a force that the blood exerts on the blood vessels as the blood circulates in the body. It's usually denoted by two numbers, a number which is at the top and another number which is at the bottom. Now, the number which is at the top is the pressure when the heart is beating or contracting, for that matter.
Okay.
And it is called the systolic blood pressure. The number at the bottom is when the heart is relaxing, in the interval between two beats.
Okay.
And that is what is called diastolic blood pressure. Now, every time the pressure is measured, you will get the two numbers. And then it's measured in a unit called millimeters of mercury.
Okay.
Now, in terms of classification or rather definition, the most referred to body is the American College of Cardiology or the American Heart Association. They define a normal blood pressure as anything below 120 over 80.
Okay. Below.
Below.
Okay.
Yes, that is normal blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, anything between 120 for the systolic to 129 and still below 80 diastolic is referred to as elevated.
Elevated. Okay.
Yes, so the blood pressure at that range is elevated. Now, hypertension will start from 130 to 139 systolic and 80 to 89 diastolic.
As long as both of them are at that level.
Yes, as long as both of them are at that level, we call it stage 1 hypertension.
Okay.
Now, stage 2 hypertension will start from 140 and above and 90 and above.
Okay.
Now, let me say that if your pressure is taken at any one time and it is found to be 180 and above, over 120 and above, that is now a hypertensive crisis.
Okay.
So maybe that is a simple way of defining or saying what hypertension is. We can probably get a few other things as we go along.
And probably for the sake of the viewer, is it possible to have an elevated blood pressure after, say, you run? Probably you do an exercise that probably is highly engaging. Tuseme ukihema, does that mean that your blood pressure is high?
Yes, of course, the blood pressure will rise with the level of activity.
Okay.
And that is why, and a few other physiological things like stress. And that is why for the pressure, for somebody to be defined as being hypertensive, they are given at least 15 minutes to relax before you do the pressure measurement. And at the end of the day, it can never be that because your pressure was found to be elevated on one occasion, that you are given you are defined as having hypertension, it has to be done at least twice.
Okay. Okay.
And it has to be 6 hours apart.
Okay.
Ideally, it should be on different days, and it should be more than twice, and then you take an average.
Okay.
Yes.
And probably going forward, why should we be talking about hypertension in our time and in our day?
Now, hypertension is a very important topic. The World Health Organization says that about 1.28 billion people in the world have hypertension.
That's a big number.
And that's a very big number. And a significant number of mortality can be directly attributed to hypertension. Now, the tragedy is that out of the 1.28, only 46% of them know that they have hypertension.
Okay.
So you can now see where the problem is. And then out of this 46% that know they have hypertension, only about half, that's about 21%, are on treatment and their pressures have been controlled. So there is a big portion that know they have hypertension, they are not under treatment, or rather they are being under treated and the pressures have not been controlled. Yes.
And what are the features, like the clinical features? How would I know that I have high blood pressure or hypertension?
Now, hypertension is actually referred to as a silent killer because the symptoms are subtle. There are very few symptoms that you can pick. And that is why the vast majority of people with the disease do not know they have it because they have no reason to go to hospital to be tested. Now, when the symptoms show up, and this is probably when the disease has already advanced, you will have issues to do with blurring of vision, an early morning headache. There may be nose bleeding and also buzzing of the ears. So those are some of the few symptoms that you can probably get an indication as to whether you should go for testing. And then the tragedy is that most people will know that they have high blood pressure or hypertension when they already have started having end organ damage. And we will probably be able to look at the organs that hypertension damages before it is known. Okay. And that's why it is important for the diagnosis to be made early and for the patient to be put under medication. In good time.
And before we get to that point, we'll take a short break and be able to come back. This is Just Connect TV. This is your medical platform, and we invite you to continue watching. Karibu sana.
Okay, thank you.
Get yourself a high-quality branded hoodie, t-shirt, caps, umbrellas, you name it, we got it. You order, we deliver. Just Connect.
Hello viewers, this is Just Connect TV. Welcome back to our medical platform show. With me is Dr. Waithaka. Karibu tena.
Thank you.
And we are addressing the issue of hypertension. And we'd like to go forward and look at the risk factors that are involved in the condition.
Okay, now the risk factors identified with hypertension can be boldly divided into two. There are those that are modifiable, where you can do something about them. Okay. And there are those that are not modifiable. Those ones, probably you can do nothing or very little about. I can probably mention the ones that are non-modifiable, and then maybe we can dwell a little more on the ones that are modifiable. Okay. The first one is the genetic. component of it, because it's already very clear that if you have a very close family relative with hypertension, say your mother or your father, both of them, or even your siblings, the chances that you will develop hypertension as you continue with life are greatly elevated. And I think it is important, even though you may not do anything about that, but it is important to know, so that you can start preparing yourself early enough in terms of the prevention and promotion of health. I think we will have an opportunity to deal with it towards the tail end of the presentation. Now, the other non-modifiable risk factor is gender. And what has been noted is that males are at a higher risk of developing hypertension up to the age of 65 years. Now, beyond the age of 65 years, the opposite actually happens. Women, the risk of them developing hypertension after 65 years is more than for male gender. The other one is the age. You know, nowadays people can live for a long time, because things that used to cut life short in the years that have gone by, the health sector has been able to address to them. And we have generally an aging population. And hypertension, the risk of developing hypertension increases with age. And this is simply because as you age, the blood vessels tend to stiffen, such that they will not dilate as they should when the heart contracts. And that increases the vascular resistance, which is also one of the main components in raising the pressure. And the tragedy with this is that if you try to address the promotion and health promotion and the prevention, a bit of it, when you are old, it will be a little more difficult for you to be able to deal with the problem. And I think those are the ones that I can mention for the non-modifiable. Now, for the modifiable risk factors, diet is one of the most significant risk factor. And in terms of diet, it's been noted that a diet that is high in sodium, we take the salt, the table salt that we take, is a major risk factor for the development of hypertension. And again, a diet that is low in potassium. Those are
so it's a delicate balance between the two.
Yes, a very delicate balance between sodium and potassium. We may not have time to go into the pathophysiology bit of it, but it is noted that a diet again which is low in potassium will predispose you towards hypertension.
And probably, doctor, just to ask, because you mentioned something about salt, and there is sea salt that is normally sold in our supermarket. Is it different from the normal?
There is no difference between the two in terms of their risks in causing hypertension when you overuse. Yes, there is no difference between the two. Yes.
Probably you can take us through. Are there other?
Of course, the other modifiable risk factors include lifestyle in terms of physical activity. People are living in towns more than used to happen there before. And the level of activity is generally very low. People do not want to get involved in regular exercises. And that is a major modifiable risk factor for hypertension. And the other one is being overweight or obese. So the risk actually increases greatly when you're not in the ideal weight category that you should be.
How would you determine what probably you can just in passing mention probably the levels of obesity and just in how would a person like know that they are obese?
Now, obesity, or rather, the most ideal instrument for knowing your ideal weight or actually size is the BMI.
Okay.
And the BMI is a component of your weight and your height. So usually the doctors will be able to do the two of them, and then they can calculate for you a BMI.
Okay.
A BMI ideal should be between 25 to around 18 there.
Okay.
About that's now the ideal BMI.
Okay.
And the calculation is you take your weight and then you take your height in meters. So you square your height and use it as the denominator to divide the weight.
Okay.
Any BMI between 25 and 30, you are overweight. Now above 30,
Yeah.
you are now
Obese.
obese.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, going forward, probably somebody realizes that they are hypertensive and they've started developing the symptoms as you had identified them earlier. What should be the next step?
Now,
And how do we manage the condition?
well, thank you, Maina. That is a very valid question. I think it is recommended not to wait until the symptoms show up. In fact, in order for you to be able to understand how far we are from doing things in the ideal way, in the US and other developed countries, it is recommended that children, because children also develop hypertension, have their blood pressure measured once in a year. You can imagine. Now, you have somebody who is 40 years or 50, they have never gone to hospital because they have never felt sick at any one time. And therefore, to them, hypertension is something which they don't think about.
And probably just to cut you short.
Yes.
I'm just imagining you are 40 years, you've never gone to hospital. Then I'm imagining the moment you start being, examined, so many things may be going wrong.
Yes, many things will have already gone wrong. And for pressure, you can imagine, because the only opportunity many people have for them to be detected as having hypertension is just a random session where the blood pressure will be taken. And you see, it is normal for any patient who visits hospitals to have at least those basic measurements taken in terms of the hypertension, the pulse, and the weight and the height. So if you've never gone to hospital, most likely your pressure has never been taken. Because you never find, it's rare to find somebody who just goes to hospital to say, I want you to test, to measure my blood pressure. And so if you are unfortunate enough to have the symptoms, you need to visit your health care provider. And you should insist as a patient, because I think it is important, it is all about your health. You should insist that your blood pressure be taken. Now, once the pressure has been taken, it will fall into the categories that we listed before when we were starting the session. Now, if your pressure is elevated, that is found to be above 120 to 130, then you know something is about to happen if you do not take care. So usually it is recommended that at that time you are given a good health talk in terms of how you can promote your health and how you can prevent high blood pressure. And you do the necessary lifestyle adjustments to support yourself.